Good morning. It is Thursday, January 30th, 2014. UPB optionmillionaires.com. This is the S&P 500 futures here. And you can see this is the low we hit just after the Fed minutes yesterday. We came back down to it, recovered into the close. This was the Chinese PMI that came out. Initial sell-off, then a recovery, and you can look up here. We're up just about at the highs that we saw when the Fed minutes came out. So looking pretty good this morning. We're up about 1/3% on stock futures. We have earnings after the bell. It's going to be one of the more interesting end of the weeks as far as earnings are concerned. We have Amazon. This is a great time to be trading stock options. The good part about having earnings on a Thursday night is you have 1 day left for some of the weekly options, and it's going to be certainly an exciting time. Amazon, you look at this trend line, it drew from the start of 2012 all the way across. If you extend it, brings us to the low $300 level. And then if you go from September of this past year in 2013, another trend line brings you to about 360. If you look right now, Amazon's been consolidating like eBay. If you pull up a chart for eBay, you'll see almost a similar type consolidation, except eBay's consolidation has run the course of over a year. I'll bring that chart up in a second and show you. But you can see we're basically at support, just like Google. Google is sitting at support, trend line support, not in a channel, not a horizontal support line here. So this is going to be very interesting. Are we going to bounce here, or are we going to pull back? And I think if we do indeed pull back, it's going to be about to the 355 level. We've seen it really over the last couple of years with Amazon. The initial results come out, and investors don't like them because Amazon doesn't post any kind of profits, right? And then it magically gets itself back, dusts itself off, and the next day is really the time to be getting into the call contract. So I'll be looking at, I would love a dip. I'd love a dip maybe to break below this trend line here from this channel. And then tomorrow I'll be buying the calls, and we're going to break out to new all-time highs for Amazon. That's what I think is going to happen. Who knows? The market could throw us a curveball, and we could just plunge and hold this level here, this trend line. That would be long-term support there that I would like to initiate some sort of call position once the volatility kind of dies down a little bit. We have earnings for Google. I did a post at optionmillionaires.com in the blog, and what I was talking about basically is the Abenomics low here back in November 2012. You can draw a trend line, and we're sitting right at it. Look at that. I mean, just perfectly at it. We kind of fell below it briefly the other day, but we're pretty much right at that trend line support. And so to me, we're at a crossroads here because look at the last earnings, the report. We not only were we sitting at resistance here that we couldn't break through, we broke through it to the upside, and then we came across this another point of resistance, which is now acting as support, and broke above that and haven't broke below it. So to me, we're either going to bounce up and we're going to head over to 1200 to, I believe, 1250 would be the target for upside. If not, we're going to come down here where we have a confluence of trend lines here and at about the 850 level for Google. And so if you were to take a gun and put it to my head and say, pick something or else, I would say get some puts. So I'm going to be looking at some puts this morning at the open. We'll see. Hopefully we get a bounce. Right now, futures are higher. Google announced a sale of some of its assets. Motorola Mobility, I believe, is bullish according to investors for the fact that they're selling it. So Google is up pre-market over the 1135 level, which is going to reduce some of the price action on the puts. So it's going to give me a good chance to get into an entry there. So we'll see. And obviously it's a high risk trade. I mean, well, if you look last time, this move was a significant move. And if you bought out of the money stock options, especially at the $1,000 strike, you made a lot of money. So I'm looking for a pullback here. We'll see. We're at support. I could see just a modest rise of 3 to 5% and kind of nip all the options in the bud. So we have Amazon, we have Google, we have Chipotle Mexican Grill. I did a post on this last night at optionmillionaires.com. We're also at support. I mean, just look at it. We have Google at support, Amazon at support, CMG at support, and I think CMG is going to melt down to the gap up that it saw last earnings. I think it's going to drop down to the 440 level, and then from there possibly melt lower. We'll see. I am not in any of the options yet, but I might look to get into some puts. They're pretty expensive. So we'll see if the price comes down. I was hoping for a bounce, and maybe we'll get that back over the 490 level, which would make the options here on the downside for the put options for downside a little cheaper. Let's move into some other stocks that are like heading into the weekend. 5. Look at 5 below, which is right at support here, and you pull back from a longer term perspective. Looks to me like it's ready to bounce up to that $40 level. The 37.50s are something like $2. The 40s are like 20 cents, and that's for the February contracts. You can go farther out. There's a 20 or 25% short interest in the stock that continually has been increasing. They came out in the start of this month and kind of pulled back some of the targets, their sales numbers. So that's kind of weighing on the stock. But I think we bottomed here. And I think FIVE, 5 below, is headed for a move up over 40. Same with Big. Big has just been destroyed, beaten down. You pull up this long-term chart. We're kind of breaking below this trend line here, which is not good. Not good, but I think this $27 level is going to be broken to the upside, and we're going to at least hit this $30 level. I'm in the $30 calls, so a short little bounce here. That's all I'm looking for. I'm not looking for any kind of long-term trend. If you pull it up, too, look at the relative strength index. I mean, we're really uncharted territory as far as the RSI. It has not been this low over the last 6 years. So Big, lots. I'm very patient on the name, and I think it's going to see a sharp 5 to 7% move higher over a short period of time before the February options expire, and that'll get us back over $30 a share. BTH reports earnings before the bell tomorrow. Double bottom here, and if you look a little closer, you can see it about the 860 range. This was a $40, $45 stock. Of course, the revenue has been declining. Their last earnings report was not very pretty. But they also got a buyout offer at $17.25 a share, I believe. Oh no, $16.75. That's somewhere in the middle. But needless to say, much higher than the stock is trading right now. Something like 60% of the outstanding shares have been sold short. Sold short. So they weren't, they shorted the stock up here and have been sitting on significant gains, but still have not covered. I don't know. I guess they're waiting for the stock to head to zero. So I'm thinking any kind of signs of stabilization here from BTH when they have earnings report tomorrow will lead to higher prices. I'm in the $10 calls that expire in February. This is a high-risk trade. Obviously, you don't go from $45 to $9.11 because your corporation is growing and you're just, boosting revenue targets. No, this is price action is really showing where the company has been headed over the last 6 to 9 months. So I'm looking for a little stabilization. We have a significant short interest. I think any kind of positive data out of the company will lead to a sharp snapback rally, much like we saw back here in November of last year. Just a couple more stocks here. We have Manitowoc reporting earnings. This is a stock. Look, see this channel here broke to the upside. I think we got further upside. Also, if you look at Caterpillar, which reported earnings earlier this week, broke to the upside. And you can see Caterpillar, I think, to me, out of this wedge, looks poised to get to the 110 level. I like Microsoft. Microsoft's really pulled back here, kind of flagging, but on a really weak day yesterday, was up over 1%. 1%. And I'm looking for a move over 37 today for Microsoft. Yahoo, this is one trade I'm probably going to make today. I'm looking for a bounce off the massive sell-off post-earnings. This is the post-earnings, the rally at the end of the session on Wednesday before the earnings report for Yahoo. And wow, anyone buying here got absolutely mauled, down over 8.7%, almost 9% yesterday. I'm looking for a bounce here. I'm looking for a bounce. I'll make it to, hopefully we'll open under 35, and I'll be able to get to $35 calls. I think the long-term picture for Yahoo is still kind of bullish, and so we're going to look possibly for a move back over 40, but we'll see. It's the same kind of formation we're seeing with the S&P 500. Let me just pull that up real quick, and then we'll call it a morning. But you see S&P 500, I talked about this, at the blog at optionmillionaires.com. If you look, I was talking about stocks when we were at our highs here, how nobody thought we would fall, and just look how dramatically we've fallen. Now we've fallen, and nobody thinks we're gonna bounce back, dust ourselves off and head up higher. I was talking about this in the chat room. This is a left shoulder head. We need to bounce above the 183 level to really get the head and shoulders pattern, topping pattern, off the table. That's going to be interesting going forward. That might take a month or two to resolve. We could be range bound. We need to hold this line here. This line has to get held. It's got to. If we don't, we're going to break down, like as I've been saying in my prior videos, to this long-term trend line. I think we're going to bounce here. I think we're going to head back into the 180s. I think it's going to be another buy the dip opportunity, and I think people are going to start hopping on the train again. In spite of the weakness, it's funny because the Federal Reserve came out with an additional taper of $10 billion, and Wells Fargo came out with a note saying, oh, this is the time to sell stocks. It's like, where were you? I mean, I was talking about it a couple weeks ago. I said the Barron's to start to 2014, every single analyst was calling for higher prices heading into 2014. And here we are, we're getting lower prices, and now everybody's calling for more, It's amazing how sentiment changes so quickly, and to me, I think there's a great opportunity to get in. I think there's people who've been waiting to buy this market on a pullback, and that's what we're going to get here. So, a couple more charts. Apple has been really beaten down here, broke through support. Some people are saying, to me, there's a good chance it's going to hit this 460 level. In the past, you would say, oh, Apple's going to fall 20%. The market's going to take a hit, but I don't know. We've seen it in the past. It does the inverse. It seems when Apple rises, the market kind of stagnates or goes lower, and vice versa. So Apple I'm going to stay away from until the dust starts to settle, or Icon buys up all the shares and gets his buddies possibly to buy in. And finally, HLF. There was a report this morning that somebody increased their stake in the company. We're right at support. If you draw a trend line across here, just take a trend line. Look at this. That's beautiful support here. So I'm looking, I don't like HLF. I think it's headed down below 50 this year, below 30 possibly by the end of the year. But right now, it's going to head higher. All right, UPB here, optionmillionaires.com. Hope everyone has a great trading session. It's Thursday, January 30th. We have exciting earnings after the bell. We have Google, Amazon, Manitowoc, Wynn Resorts. Before the bell tomorrow, we have MasterCard, Salmon Property Group. Woo, it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, I'll see you in the chat room. Goodbye.